If you're giving it everything in training, you are probably doing too much. So today I wanted to talk to you about an article I saw, I think it was in Runner's World. I couldn't find it again after I decided to do a video on it, but I think it was in Runner's World, and it was talking about why B+ workouts are better than A+ workouts. And of course, this is the weekly running and training vlog, where the main purpose of this video is for you to tell me about your week of running. I want to hear about your successes, and I definitely want to hear about your setbacks. And at the end of this video, I'll tell you about my week of training. But let's talk about training, and specifically training too hard, and why a B+ workout is better than an A+ workout. And actually, I could wrap up this video in about 30 seconds, because ultimately it comes down to, you don't want to train so hard that you have to recover for a long period of time, right? Our training, as you know, we are usually training to get to somewhere. We're usually training to get to a race, unless we're just training long term, which is about 8 months of my year. But usually we are training because we have a goal in mind, and we want to go out and we want to run a PB at that goal race, usually, or at least close to a PB, or at least better than we think we can do. I don't want to put any pressure on anyone that they have to run a PB in every race they do. I certainly do not run PBs anymore. And just like that, we are already getting off topic. So let's bring it back. We want to train at a B+ level. B+ is pretty good. In fact, it's very good, in fact, but it isn't as good as you could possibly do. It isn't your potential. That A+ is your potential, and we are training to reach that potential on race day. If we reach our full potential in training, then it's likely we are giving too much in training, and we're going to have to recover after that. And ultimately, we are not going to be able to complete the training block, which means when it gets to race day, we are just going to be too tired in order to go out and perform when it actually matters. Like, nobody cares if you run a PB on the track. It doesn't count. Even if it's on Strava, it doesn't count. Look, I'm sorry, and if you disagree with me, I would love to hear about it in the comments, but I don't care how fast you run your workouts in. If you want to perform your best, it has to be done at a specific event, a race. Who's with me? Now, that's not to say that sometime during your training block, you're not going to want to do an A+ effort. Sometimes we do tune-up races, and if you're doing a tune-up race, you're really doing that race to see where your fitness is for your goal race. So you are going to go out there, you are going to crush it on your tune-up race, probably give an A+ effort. Hopefully it's not exactly where you want to be, because you've still got some training time left to get to your A goal event. But at the time that you do a tune-up race, you're probably going to be giving it everything. But I can't really think of anything else. That's probably it. When we do our training, when we do intervals, when we do a tempo run, you're going to want to go out there, complete the prescribed workout that is on your schedule, and still have something in the tank. Does that make sense? Now, for me at least, it's much easier said than done. Sometimes when I go out and I know that I have to run, let's say 800s or 3 1-mile intervals, it's very difficult when I finish the last interval to think to myself, oh, I could go out and I could knock out another interval, because I have usually spent the whole workout thinking about, oh, I can't wait to be done. Oh, I've only got 2 intervals left. To be then told that I have to do another one probably isn't going to sit well with me, but that's the idea behind it. We're supposed to have enough energy left where we are not thrashing ourselves when we go out and we just do a standard workout. And I think that is a concept that a lot of us have to learn. And a lot of us, I mean runners in general. I think when runners get started running and they go out there and they start seeing some improvement, I think they think that they have to run fast all the time. And I also think that comparing yourselves to others is like a muscle that we have to strengthen and grow. And in the beginning, newer runners, I think, are probably more likely to compare themselves to other runners than runners that have been doing it for a while. And if you start comparing yourselves to other runners, you're probably going to be comparing yourselves to runners that are faster. That's generally how it works. We compare ourselves to others that we consider to be better than ourselves. I mean, that's pretty obvious, right? I mean, if you think about it, if we were to compare ourselves with others that ran slower than us or less than us, that would just leave us feeling pretty good all the time. And that phrase, comparison is the thief of joy, probably wouldn't hold much water. So how do you know? How do you know that you have run a workout and you haven't gone too far? You haven't given it an A+ effort, even though I know it can seem like it at the time, especially on those first couple intervals where they are feeling especially hard. Then you kind of warm up a little bit. Once your body gets warm and you start moving and you realize, oh, this is how my body needs to move in this direction. The second, the third, the fourth interval, for me at least, often get a little easier, and I tend to pick up the pace. But in my experience, the difference between an A+ workout and a B+ workout is when you are running hard, and then the next day, even if I'm a little tired, I don't feel like not running. Whereas, in comparison to a race, the day after a race, running is really the last thing on my mind, and that's because I have given it everything on race day. Let me know your thoughts on the subject. And I'd also like to know if you have actually gone out for a workout thinking, man, I'm gonna crush this workout, I'm gonna give these 400s everything I got, I'm gonna run as fast as I can for 400 meters, then recover, then do it again, then recover, then do it again, and the whole workout just becomes about running as fast as you possibly can. Let me know if you've ever been there. I know that I have. So look, again, just another example of how difficult it is to not give it everything in training is because, at least I think in society, we are told that we have to go out and we have to give it 100% all the time. Like if we're not doing our best at all times, then somehow we are failing. And I think that's a hard thing to kind of wrap our minds around in some way for some of us. Of course, there are others of us, and I count myself in this camp occasionally. I go out and I do a workout and I don't give it everything. I know that I could work harder, and sometimes it's because I haven't slept enough, or sometimes it's because I'm just lazy. I don't know. There are some workouts where I want to give it more than I should, and there are other workouts where I don't give it as much as I should. But here's how I kind of look at it. I think about it like this. There's this red line. There's this red line, and that I am down here and I'm trying to build up to this red line, because on the other side of the red line, is injury, but on this side of the red line is peak fitness. This is where I want to be. I am trying to build as close to this red line as possible without going over the red line and risking injury. And guys, I have crossed that red line more times than I can actually count, but the goal is always the same. The goal is always to get up to this red line as close as possible. And I'm reminded of the quote, which I think we all need to keep in mind at all times as runners who are actually training for something, and that is, it's better to be 10% undertrained than 1% overtrained. And I think that's actually pretty profound. Well, profound is probably too much, but it's actually good advice. Let's just say that. It's good. Not profound, but good. Because 1% overtrained is going to leave us too tired to perform. But remember, this is the red line. If we are right there on the red line, our fitness is pretty high. It's still pretty high even if we're 10% undertrained. So you are still going to go out and you are going to crush your race. You might not reach your potential, but you are going to reach the potential that you could at 90% of fitness rather than 101% of fitness, and you end up injured, possibly not being able to finish the race, or possibly getting injured before you actually get to the race, which would actually be a much worse way to go out. It's also worth remembering when we're training for an event, that it's likely that we're not getting paid for it. Right? It's highly likely that I don't have any professional runners, people that are making a living off of running, watching me right now. You watching this, you are probably just like me, and that you run for fun. You enjoy it. You like to go out there. You like to do your best. But if your livelihood isn't tied to running, I think that helps you put that line back into perspective. I know that if I have to get right up close to that line in order to feed my family, well, I am probably going to get a little closer. I'm going to risk going over the line because the reward is so much greater. But for me, as you know, just a hobby jogger, I go out, I run a few races a year. I like running, I like new running shoes. Really, it's just for fun. For me, it is not worth it going over that line, so that's why the B+ workouts are where I like to keep it, in order so I can perform my best on race day and hopefully not be injured. Now, of course, if you saw my video last week, my running and training vlog, you know that I had a little injury scare, but it turned out to just be a tight muscle, and I am excited to report that that tight muscle hasn't returned. I've got no other side effects of that injury or any other injury. And because we're already talking about it, I think I can put that down to me training in a B+ graded kind of way. What do you think? Let me know how you train. Let me know if you ever go too hard in training and you don't realize it till after the fact, or are you generally able to keep it right in that sweet spot, somewhere up towards the line, but definitely not going over it. Well, I actually had a pretty good week of running. I started to realize that the Boston Marathon is actually getting pretty close, and I am right in that sweet spot. Well, it's not sweet. I'm actually getting into that spot where training has to be a little harder. I'm getting to the end of a training block where my volume is getting a lot higher, my workouts are getting a lot harder, and I'm definitely building up to that line as in the next couple of weeks, as close as I'm going to get to it before race day. So I have felt a little more pressure to go out and do my runs and do my workouts, although I generally don't miss too many workouts. I guess nothing really changed. I'm just feeling a little more pressure as it gets to race day, which I guess is normal and motivational. But my week started off on Monday with 11.3 miles, but this time I went down to downtown Sarasota and I ran back and forth over the Ringling Bridge. It was a beautiful morning. It was right at sunrise, and I wanted to go down there and run over the bridge just because I wanted to get some elevation gain. And I knocked out 11.3 miles. Now, I was pretty tired at the end of it. I wasn't hammering it going uphill, but I was running a little bit harder than easy. Now I think about it, I was probably right in that zone 3 dead zone. Some of you might call them junk miles. I don't call them junk miles. If you remember from, I don't know, a year ago in a running and training vlog, I like to call them, in fact, now I don't remember what I actually called them, but I don't like the term junk miles. I think all the miles are good for something, even if they're not good specifically for training for an actual race. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is I think I had a pretty good run on Monday. At least I had fun. Tuesday was my first official workout of the week, and I actually ran 10.5 miles, and that included warming up for 2.3 miles. Then I did 6 1K repeats with 800 meters recovery in between, and then I cooled down for 1.5 miles. And I was pretty happy with that workout. I felt pretty good at the end. You know, that feeling that you get once you put a little bit of work in. So all was good. I was especially good on Wednesday because that was my day off this week. And then I came back on Thursday for another workout day. Now I ran 8.3 miles total. I warmed up for 2 miles. I did a 10K at tempo pace, and then I cooled down, mostly walking, but I think it was about 0.1 mile of running just to get a little closer to the house. You know how that goes. And then I stopped and I walked to cool down. And the rest of the week was easy running. 8.3 miles on Friday, hopefully just to give myself a little bit of time to recover from the tempo run the day before. Saturday I ran 10.1 miles, met up with a couple of friends and just ran easy for those 10 miles. Again, feeling pretty good. And then I wrapped up the week on Sunday with my long run. I knocked out 19.5 miles, and I did go to downtown Sarasota, met up with the Suncoast Milers, and it was a pretty uneventful long run. It was nice just hanging out and chatting to people the whole time, and it was uneventful until it wasn't. And if you follow me on Strava, you already know what happened, but I did have a bit of a fall. I went down, I grazed my knees, but the worst thing that happened was that I smashed my favorite camera. This beautiful Insta360 X3 is now, it's as good as a brick. Let me show you why. So I don't even know if this camera is going to focus on this little bit here, but the lens is scratched, and when you scratch the lens, oh, before I tell you about the lens, there's also a big crack right across the screen, but that really doesn't matter in the scheme of things. The lens is scratched, so because it's a 360 camera, whenever you film something, that scratch is going to appear on the lens, and the lens is not replaceable. So I'm going to start a recording just so you can see what it actually looks like with a scratch on the lens. And I mean, look at that. That's, you can, if I move it around, you can kind of see those scratches up on the white ceiling. Yeah, there's really not getting around that. The camera is useless right now. Now, of course, I can send it back to Insta360 and they do offer repairs, but I don't know how much that is actually going to cost. I don't know if it's going to be worthwhile, but we'll see. The injury wasn't bad at all. It hasn't like set me back any. The broken camera is what has set me back more than anything else, but it's just a thing, right? Anyway, that long run brought my week's total to 68.1 miles, which is about 109.63 kilometers. So this was a pretty solid week. Now, next week, I do have a pretty heavy work week, so it's going to be substantially less than this week, but I feel good having this week in the bag. All right? Don't forget to let me know about your week of running. Remember, I want to hear about your successes and your setbacks. And if you've made it this far, I want you to drop the camera emoji in the comments, just so I can feel your sympathy and know that you've made it to the end of the video. Be kind, be happy, run well. I'll see you in a couple of days.